There, with the yellow hat.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, shit. Looking good, dude. Oh, I liked it.
You did?
Yeah.
See, that's about as lean as I got. Yeah. I don't know. What body fat percent do you think that is? 10? 12?
Probably. Your fitness journey, by the way, like, it's kind of interesting how I was honestly shocked to see you even commenting on my channel. Like, I guess we do have overlap with drugs, but in terms of like have you become more interested in it recently in terms of just general fitness and like?
Yeah, I stopped giving a fuck and now I care. So it's funny. We're talking about these experiences with Connor Murphy, people like where it takes them to the point where they don't give a shit about anything.
And you're like getting up there.
I'm getting up there.
Yeah, because I've noticed you've been posting like progress photos on your Instagram and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, so like obviously you do care to some extent about your progression and whatnot.
Well, I went from not giving a shit to caring.
Yeah.
So it's having an opposite effect on me.
Okay. That just goes to show that you can not, it's not like it's always downwards in the escalation of.
So this is hard to explain. So what happened with me was there's been a progression to it. So initially I cared about my looks. I had these really intense experiences. And kind of like Connor Murphy,
yeah,
they actually did contribute to me not giving a shit. But then you come full circle. And then it's like everything starts to really click in the sense where, I don't know how to describe this, more beyond just why, if you're only alive in this body one time, why would I not want to have my best experience possible?
Right.
And it's like the psychedelics show you that. It's like, yeah, you might be everything and nothing and all of this shit, but literally right now you are you, and there's nothing I can do to not be me.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be me, I want to be the best version of me.
And even if it's superficial, you can accept and you're okay with the fact that people will treat you better if you look better, and you will have a better
reason.
Oh, but presumably, well, what do you like? Presumably you do it because you have a better overall experience in life looking better, or is it purely for health benefits?
I like the health benefits, but of course I'm not going to lie. I would love to look better.
Right.
I get a spike of dopamine if someone's checking me out, just like the next person. But I wouldn't say that's the full reason why I'm training.
Okay, gotcha.
I think it feels, for me personally, it feels good liking myself.
Right.
So when I'm like, say I'm working out with a muscle pump and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I'm looking good right now. Like, I like that feeling.
Yeah.
But I say I'm more geared towards doing it for my own personal like reasons, just because I don't know, who wants to be ugly?
Yeah. Fair.
And my body got pretty ugly. And now it's like, once you see what you can do, I want to push things. I want to see how far I can get.
What's the leanest you've got? Is it like
I don't want to be that lean anymore. That was uncomfortable.
Oh, how far did you go? Like,
you can go to my Instagram. I'll show you a picture.
Okay.
It wasn't even that crazy, and I think it's largely because I don't hold, like, my abs always have fat over them.
Oh, it's like your stubborn fat spot kind of thing?
Yeah, like I feel like my back was lean, but I don't know. I just always hold fat on my stomach, so maybe you can tell me what percentage I was at, because I have no idea. But it was too lean.
Okay, I'm going to put up a screen recording here for the editor. It just started. Actually, fuck, I'll time it.
I probably wasn't even that lean, but there were veins in my abs.
Oh, that's pretty fucking lean.
Yeah, 2 veins. I had 2 veins in my abs, but I was miserable.
Recording. Okay, so we're on your Instagram right now.
So scroll down. I think I'm wearing a hat in the one where you can see the veins on my abs.
Okay, so I am, is it further in this?
Keep going. Keep going. There, with the yellow hat.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, shit. Looking fucking good, dude. Oh, I liked it.
You did?
Yeah.
See, that's about as lean as I got. I don't know. What body fat percent do you think that is? 10? 12?
Probably 12. A lot of people, back in the day, I probably would have said 10 because you have visible abs, and that's kind of where, the idea is once you have a visible six-pack, you're 10% body fat. But I'd probably say like 12. But this was maybe 11. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you have visible abs, you look fucking good. So the percentage is just an arbitrary number.
So yeah, that was too lean for me.
Yeah.
Because I was like having those symptoms of no sex drive.
Oh, unsustainably lean.
Yeah. So that's weird. Even me at like, maybe it was 14% was too lean.
Huh.
If I don't have like a bit of fat over my abs, I'm fucking miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, some people it's always a different trouble spot. Like some people they hold their fat in their lower back. Some people it's their hips, like whatever it is, and it's always the last place to go.
Yeah, it's my stomach. Last place to go.
Yeah. Well, how much did you weigh in that video?
I don't know. I'm not one of those people who really weighs themselves.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't.
For tracking progress, I'm surprised.
I know, I don't. But I was really thin. Like, I'm a little bigger now. I like being this way better.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell in a video too, right? Because of angles and shit. Yeah.
But now, like, for example, you fill out the shirt, whereas maybe in that video you might have not. So it looks like in clothes less impressive, but shirtless more impressive sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. With clothes on, I looked really thin.
Yeah.
Like for that video.
Yeah, it's the thing what they say about naturals. It's like you can't be, you can be big. There's big and lean, but you can't be both at the same time or something like that. There's a certain, I guess it's not totally true for some people, but I mean, like hypergenetic outliers. But in general, you kind of got to pick. It's hard to be like big in clothes and shredded.
Right now, I'm trying to be like. There's a more recent video where I've got kind of abs. Mm-hmm. You've seen it. My most recent one that I posted a progress report of. At this point, I feel good, and I don't even.
This one.
Yeah. See, I probably look smaller here, but I'm actually way bigger.
Yeah, in a video, like proportionally, it seems like you're smaller because that's just what the angles do. But in person, yeah, I'm sure it's drastically different.
I mean, versus the other video where I was more cut. You always look bigger when you're more cut.
No, of course. Like in the video, it looks like you're more cut, bigger in the cut video versus in person. I'm sure there's a drastic difference in terms of you're bigger now, and you wouldn't have been able to tell in the video.
Yeah. So where do you want to go with working out?
I'm just kind of trying to maintain high levels of productivity, to be honest. Like my focus is as much on work as possible and just sustain everything else around it. So for me, I work out 4 times a week for an hour, and then I try and do like healthy cardio, which is like 10-minute walk after each meal I typically do. So I do like 3 a day for 10 minutes. And that is, I don't always adhere to it perfectly, but that's like my goal, like perfect schedule. And that keeps me, so I have a few days a week where I actually find working out inhibits my mental ability because I work out hard as fuck when I work out. So when I go to do a video after, I'm like drained.
Right.
So it's very hard for me to dial in and be super focused and upbeat if I just killed myself in the gym. So I actually really value working out less days a week and fitting in more into condensed time frames.
Well, you still look huge, so whatever you're doing is working.
Yeah, well, for me, it's a bit easier with TRT, to be honest. But yeah.
So what would I look like if I took TRT?
You'd probably be this plus like, well, I guess it depends if you're cutting or not too. Because when you're cutting, it's disproportionately harder to hold on to your size because your test levels are literally in the gutter. So you would probably hold maybe 5 to 10 pounds more of lean mass, like as you would be cutting. Like you would be definitely like 5 to 10 pounds more muscle, I would predict. So, and obviously disproportionately, it's gonna depend a lot on what your baseline is too. Like I'm just ballparking.
Yeah.
And some of that's gonna be temporary water retention too. But it's still gonna look.
Do you think I would look like I was on steroids if I took them?
I think based on how like compact your frame is, you already look like you're pretty like jacked in some of these videos, to be honest. Like objectively to yourself, you might not think so, but
yeah,
like compared to most naturals, you look muscular.
Cool.
You know, if that, I'm trying to like put it in a perspective that sort of makes sense here. But typically individuals who are shorter too, it's easier to fill out a frame and look jacked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Muscles in a smaller
area,
right?
Like you're filling out a T, you have a visible bicep vein. Like I'm pretty sure on TRT, I don't know if you'd look like you're on steroids.
Yeah.
I bet you if you got shredded on TRT, people would say you're definitely on gear though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe just sitting in a shirt and like normal clothes, they might not accuse you so much.
But it's hard. I think it's hard to say, right? Like how someone's going to respond to these things.
Yeah. So it's kind of like brain chemistry in terms of your actual like receptor content in your muscle tissue too. Like just because you use a dose of a drug, you can't really predict your response from a muscle protein synthesis aspect. Like I don't know how many androgen receptors you have in your muscle fiber or whatever. Like that's to be determined. So it's not even just, and I'm sure the same applies to psychedelics. It doesn't even matter necessarily like a microdose for one person.
Yeah.
You might respond disproportionately so because of your brain chemistry. The same way with steroids, some people, they use the same dose of testosterone and they blow up versus another guy who's like barely responsive.
So were you natural first or did you jump on stuff really, really early?
Objectively, it was young, but I definitely trained naturally for a couple of years first. I would have waited longer if I could have though. And I had, my knowledge back then was nothing. Like it's sort of what led me to what I'm doing now.
What size did you get to before you jumped on gear?
Well, like I could say a weight, but it's just an arbitrary amount because you don't really know what it looked like at
You
that
don't have
weight.
any pictures of yourself?
I do. I could probably dig some up. Yeah, I think I posted them on my channel before. But I was I was like 205 pounds. It's probably like the biggest I got naturally. But it was not a super clean 205.
So you were like chubby.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, it definitely did. Like no visible abs. Just put it that way.
Okay.
So I wasn't fat, but I wasn't lean at all.
You know what's weird too? I find like I've been at that point where I had no visible abs and I looked much beefier.
Yeah.
But to other people, they think you're fat. But like I remember I would look in the mirror, I'd be like, "Oh, I look great." Like I thought I looked great.
Dude, back then, and it's funny because now you would see yourself and see even visible abs and be like, "I'm fat" or something, or "I'm out of shape," because you used to be shredded, and that's your, the hedonic treadmill of like adjusting your perspective to things.
Society's standards have changed so much. You look at Arnold in his glory days.
Yeah.
And he wasn't super ripped.
Yeah.
I still think he looks fucking great.
Yeah.
But like now
fitness industry people are like, he's fat. I'm like like when fitness industry people see a physique that's not like it's hard to even fathom how fucked up the mindset is of a fitness industry person for perceiving physique quality. Mm-hmm. You see a guy with some muscle and visible abs simultaneously, that guy is a top 1% physique. Like by default. Like how many guys in the gym just at a random recreational facility are walking around with visible abs and have some size on them at the same time? Mm-hmm. Like none who are natural. Like, barely any. So like when you see even that's like an elite guy relative to the average population.
Right.
But like the fitness industry perspective, you see that guy, you're like, this guy is fat and small at the same time. So I have my brain somewhat warped by that, but I've been able to reel it back to an extent to realize that the average person is not seeing anything like that. Like a girl would see a bodybuilder and be like, ew, disgusting.
For sure. They would.
Yeah. So like for this, like for your size, I imagine if they saw your physique, if you had just worked out and were all vascular and veiny and were like flexing, they'd probably say that's too much, even as a natural.
Like a girl would say that.
Yeah. So it's like at the end of the day, once you start taking like heavy amounts of steroids and really like pushing the envelope, you're really just impressing dudes anyways.
Yeah, you are.
So it's how much do you value impressing dudes, I guess is the question,
Some people need that validation, baby.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
They get their kicks off from.
But for me with my natural physique and whatnot, like I definitely should have waited longer than I did. And that's a lot of what my educational content revolves around now is like how to know when you'd be ready, how to educate yourself, understanding endocrinology and pharmacology before deploying this kind of stuff, how to read blood work. If you're even in a health state where you'd be able to tolerate it, because some people, it's not like psychedelics where I guess worst case scenario, which is obviously a bad scenario, is you end up like Connor Murphy. But in bodybuilding, a worst case scenario is literally like heart failure or kidney failure or, like actually dying. So, that kind of
psychedelics are safer.
I don't know. I'm trying to not compare the two like directly, but
because you can't. No one's died from taking LSD.
Okay, there you go.
You can't overdose on it. It doesn't kill your heart.
Yeah. So in bodybuilding, though, like for example, no one does like cardiac imaging. No one like actually looks at their organ health before exposing themselves to this kind of shit. They just take it and assume like, oh, I'll be okay, and that kind of stuff you should actually check first to see if you can even tolerate these drugs to begin with. And that's a lot of what my channel goes into. It's like stuff I wish I did back in the day and I would do now if I could go back in time. So yeah, I would have waited longer personally.
Right. But you don't regret taking them?
No, because a lot of the experiences I had, even if they were negative or were wasteful, like a lot of times I really did use shit when I was not making the most of it. Yeah. Like I would eat with like a subpar diet or, not get my rest or train, with like not even like focusing on like tracking my lifts for progressive overload. I would just go and do like fluff workouts and stuff. I didn't realize at the time you only have so much duration of like organ exposure to these compounds before you get to a point where it's like you're not healthy enough to tolerate continuing this stuff. So when you do take it, you got to be super dialed in and make the most of it because you can only do it so many times. You know what I mean?
But you can take the HRT?
HRT is
long-term
therapeutic replacement.
Yeah.
So there are some things that are minimally thrown off, like your lipids, for example, like your HDL is likely going to be a bit lower. There's some minor things that can have implications like heightened hematology profile. Like you get more viscous blood. Some people need to therapeutically phlebotomize occasionally.
Are you safe on it though? Like you feel like you're
totally
good? Okay.
Yeah, knock on wood. But I think like based on, I do all of my homework on everything, and I'm
you get blood work taken.
Yeah. So, and that's obviously what I'd recommend. But in general, if you're replacing a hormone with a therapeutic amount, you should not be putting yourself in harm's way to any significant extent. Now, there's obviously very nuanced parts to that argument, though, because when you take TRT, you're also shutting down different processes in your body that produce that testosterone. So it's like I don't know if you can make the argument that it's literally equal in health. Like there's things that are definitively thrown off when you take TRT that are not literally the equivalent of natural production. But at the same time, if you're hypogonadal and had low T as a natural, either through lifestyle, diet, age, or exposure to anabolic steroids in your youth or whatever age you are, it could be more unhealthy to not take the TRT, because then you have low testosterone, low estrogen, which is terrible for brain health, cardiovascular health, etc. So at that point, it's like, okay, well, actually being on TRT is healthier than not being on TRT. So if you're going to compare it to a guy who's normally fine and a guy who puts his test at the exact same level of TRT, I would imagine the guy who's natural, who has adequate production, is probably healthier than the guy who's on TRT.
But is there any way to know?
Yeah, you get blood work done. You see where you're at. You see where your biomarkers are at and whatnot.
But is there any way to check, like, are there any markers of having low T that you can tell without blood work?
Erectile dysfunction, mood swings, lots of things in terms of you've experienced them yourself, dude. When you were dieting down, think of all those.
Oh, you think I had low T when I was dieting down?
For sure, probably.
Okay.
You said you were like, well, I guess food deprivation also contributes to being fatigued and whatnot.
Yeah,
obviously,
I was eating
too.
Some days 1,400 calories a day.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And that's what I looked like on 1,400.
Yeah.
Maybe my body just doesn't want to lose the weight.
Yeah, it's sometimes when you you cut your calories like so aggressively, you can get to a point where you plateau like really early, and then it's like, where do I go from here? You know what I mean? And it's like, when you're at 1,400, like I can imagine you felt like death.
I felt awful.
Yeah, like sub 2,000, I'm like suffering. Even 2,500, like obviously I'm taller and like overall like larger, so I have more calorie requirements. But in general, like even proportionally, like for girls that are like even like a couple inches shorter than you, they would be eating 1,600 calories to maintain.
Yeah. I wasn't doing the 1,400 long. I was bouncing between 14 to 1,600.
That was like your low point.
Yeah, that was like the lowest. Like there was maybe a couple weeks, and I was just trying to do that aggressive cut. I did it in the most unhealthy way possible.
Yeah.
So then I gained a bunch of the weight back, and now I've been slowly doing it in the way that preserves muscles.
Yeah, that's the way to do it for sure. Yeah. Like my girlfriend eats like 2,000 a day, and she just like sustains her weight.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So just guys who get to like sub like 1,800 like really aggressively, you lose a ton of fat like really fast, and it's super rewarding getting that like instant, like not instant gratification, but like pretty fucking quick. You see results, but then once you plateau, you're like, oh shit, like what now?
Yeah, well now I'm not dropping it more, but then you just implement jogging or some form of cardio.
Yeah, but then it's like you only have that one vector to push on, and you're already fatigued as fuck. Do you want to do cardio when you're at 1,500 calories?
Dude, I was doing it. But
you were suffering through it and
starving
starving as fuck, and probably thinking, I should probably use more amphetamine to crush my appetite right now.
No, I
wasn't
feel taking amphetamine at that point.
Good willpower then.
Yeah.
Because that's like something most people...
I was taking Kratom, which made me so hungry. I was like struggling so much.
That's a horrible combo, yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah. So
I wanted to ask you something else and I forgot. Damn it.
Something about being natural, TRT, health, not being...
Yeah, you said something in a video that I watched of yours that really I was interested in. You mentioned people who take TRT are more motivated. I wanted to ask if that is kind of like the motivation you get from amphetamine. Is there a similarity between the steroid motivation and amphetamine motivation?